Mr. Dhaliwal, namaste, and you've now been appointed on the Standing Committee for Immigration. What will be your priority?
My priorities will be to make sure that the issues that are faced in Canada, we through that committee get it done. Committee determines its own business because nobody intervenes because there are members on this committee from both sides, from the Liberal and the Conservative, NDP and Bloc. And my role as a chair is to be very fair and neutral. To make sure that the business of the committee runs in a very efficient manner, and that's what I'm looking forward to.
Mr. Dhaliwal, how do you view the equations between Canada and India? Are these two nations friends?
I mean, certainly, if we look at people-to-people ties, we have the best ties. If we look at business-to-business ties, we do have excellent business-to-business ties. From time to time, there is always issues, that is going to be facing challenges between both nations, and that's where fear and scare, because that happens all the time.
How do you view the issue around the murder of Hardeep Nijjar?
I mean, this is a totally shocking news. When Prime Minister on September the 18th addressed the Parliament and addressed Canadians, and he said that there is a credible information, a credible piece of evidence that Indian government agents or agency agents must be maybe involved in this killing, and that basically shocked the whole Canadian population that this can happen to a Canadian.
But Mr. Dhaliwal, Justin Trudeau, the Canadian Prime Minister, has never said evidence, sir. He's only said allegations and reasons. So can reasons and allegations be ground enough for him to make a statement against India?
Certainly do, because he has already these security agencies, the law enforcement agencies have enough evidence that they brought it forward to him that has made him to make this statement on September the 18th.
Is there an FIR by the police? Have the police released a list of suspects who they believe are Indian agents? As of now, has the Canadian police, with more than 4.5 months, have they registered a case and listed the suspects out, sir?
I mean, the time will tell. But at this point in time, I can tell you that Prime Minister was given this information, that there, from credible information that he got, he made this statement, and I think this is what he did is a real leadership that he has done, and time will prove. And when you talk about the evidence, he's not going to throw that evidence in public when it goes to the courts, because the court system here in Canada is very fair and very independent, and the judges will look at that evidence and will make the decision.
But Mr. Dhaliwal, don't you find it surprising that somebody against whom there is a red corner notice and by the Interpol since 2015-2016, somebody who was rejected Canadian citizenship twice and who spent nearly 10 years on Canadian soil, is now being defended or batted for by the Prime Minister of Canada? Under Justin Trudeau's term, that's when India had raised extradition request. 2020, Hardeep Nijjar proscribed as a terrorist for his activities on Indian soil. And he is seemingly getting cover fire by the Canadian administration, Mr. Dhaliwal.
One thing, I'm not here to defend Mr. Nijjar, but one thing I can tell you, I'm here to defend Canada. But this is something, it's not about just Mr. Nijjar. It is about a Canadian being executed or assassinated on a Canadian soil by a foreign agent, which is what is shocking, which is what is bothering me, and not only me, in fact, all my constituents and people across Canada.
Are you, and as a Canadian citizen, as a proud Canadian citizen, would you like Canada to be known as a place which is now becoming a haven for gangsters, drug traffickers, human traffickers, or would you cooperate with Bharat in trying to extradite these elements like Arsh Dalla
I can tell you right
and
now,
like Goldy
in
Brar.
every instance, when there is a credible information, I will support that, but it's up to the justice system. It is not the government that deports people here. It is the courts that make that decision.
I'm asking you, the government's position will be to cooperate on these extradition.
That's
requests.
right. On every instance, I can tell you right now.
And if an American citizen comes to Canada, sir, and threatens Canadians to leave Canada, what do you think should be the Canadian government's position, sir?
I'm telling you right now, my answer to your question is this, that if there is a credible information that Indian government provides about someone's extradition, Canadian government, irrespective which government it is, they will always stand, because that is our principle.
If an American citizen comes to Canada
I'm
on a
telling
valid
you that
Canadian visa and threatens Canadian citizens, asking them and threatening them to leave Canada, what would be your position, Mr. Dhaliwal? What should be done with such a person?
My position is we do not support that. We condemn that. Canada is a very diverse nation. This is the only country. Listen to me now. Give me a chance, please. Canada is the only country which is diverse in nature, where we respect each other's religious values, where we respect each other's cultural values, and every individual has an equal right and freedom.
Mr. Dhaliwal, do you support Canadian soil being used to advocate the secession or balkanization of another democracy, another country?
We certainly don't, but at the same time, I can tell you right now, if someone is raising their voice, right, with a peaceful way and not creating any violence, I have said it time and time again, and they have every right to bring their point of view.
Are you on record saying that you have never met Mr. Nijjar and you did not know him at all?
I tell you, the first time I met Nijjar is in 2019.
But in 2019,
listen to me.
Please come.
Listen to me first. Because he was the president of a Gurdwara in my constituency, and I go to that Gurdwara and I met him as a president of that Gurdwara. Okay? Listen to me now.
But Mr. Dhaliwal, I accept your position that you met him in 2019, Mr. Dhaliwal. May I ask you, sir, in 2020, Mr. Nijjar was proscribed a terrorist by the Indian government. Did you raise this matter with the Canadian authorities that Mr. Nijjar is a person of interest internationally? He's got a red corner notice against him, multiple terror charges against him, and a friendly nation, that is Bharat, has actually proscribed him a terrorist, and we should. Can you please inquire if there are multiple letter rogatories and extradition requests for Mr. Nijjar? Did you, as a responsible Canadian citizen, a politician and an MP, raise this? I'm asking you, sir.
No, but listen to me first now. Indian government, I have no faith right now in Indian system. The reason is because they can tell anybody a terrorist. But my sources...
So are you officially saying that you do not trust India and you do not trust the Indian citizens? Indians,
right now...
So,
I mean, how can I? Even your channel.
I'm just asking. I'm just asking you, Mr. Dhaliwal. Are you supporting those elements who are actually operating from Canadian soil and trying to orchestrate a balkanization or a secessionist movement against Bharat?
I have clearly said it, Mr. Gupta, before, and I'm telling you right now that if someone is violent or someone is using violence, we would never support it, okay? And I have said that we would not... Will you support
organized crime and criminals, sir? Will you support gangsters?
We don't.
So my final question to you, sir, will you now help those people whose names I have taken, Goldy Brar, Arsh Dalla, and other for whom letter rogatories and requests have been given? Will you support the Indian government in extraditing them from Canada and bringing them to justice, sir? They are the criminals and gangsters.
I can certainly tell you right now, if Indian government comes up with a credible evidence and approaches me or any government in Canada, any government, irrespective which party it is, we will support India in their deliberations.
Mr. Dhaliwal, Hardeep Nijjar's son has said that the CSIS was in touch with Mr. Nijjar and they were going to meet him 2 days after also, and 6 days before his death, they had met him. So are you accepting that the Canadian intelligence failed to protect Mr. Nijjar?
It's not about failing to protect Mr. Nijjar. It is the thing that is right now is that the Indian agents
No, my
were
question.
involved
My
in
question
killing
then, sir.
a Canadian on Canadian.
My
But
question,
now
sir,
let me
is
come
that
back.
my question,
Let-
sir, is
no,
that
but
somebody
why
who's
don't we come
proscribed a
back to your
terrorist in
stand?
2020, somebody who had a
But I
red
mean-
corner notice against him, the Canadian
because
intelligence
you are-
was actually going to protect him. So Canadian
you are
government,
going-
you are saying
listen
as
to
an
me.
MP that they were officially
you-
protecting Hardeep Nijjar.
No, they didn't. He didn't get any cover, but he was informed because I'm not privy to that information because nobody told me. Neither Mr. Nijjar told me, nor the intelligence agencies had told me that they have
No,
meetings.
but
If
Mr.
they would
Nijjar's
have
son
told
has
me-
made this claim, sir. Mr. Nijjar's son has openly made this claim. sir.
I'm telling you right now, it's not only his son. Right now, the Prime Minister of Canada has made a claim.
No, but
that
he's made a
he-
claim. Where is the evidence, sir? You just asked India to provide evidence against Arsh Dalla and Goldy Brar. So is
evidence
there
will
evidence?
come. Listen to me. Evidence will come in the courts in a due process.
So that was Mr. Sukh Dhaliwal. Do you believe he's taken the right stand in the interest of peace against extremism, against gangsters, against warlords, against those who are orchestrating the secession or balkanization of yet another democracy from Canadian soil? We leave that for you to decide. Let's also ask Puneet Sahni, who's joining us this evening, and Ramneek Singh Man. Namaste, Sat Sri Akal. Thank you very much. Jai Hind, gentlemen. Let me first ask you, Ramneek Man, how would you look at what Mr. Sukh Dhaliwal has said? Has he inadvertently accepted that the Canadian authorities were openly shielding a wanted man?
You know, there's liar written all over his face. When he speaks, his utterances are all lies. Let me just get into the background of Sukh Dhaliwal and let's try and get the credibility of this man right. Okay, so Sukh Dhaliwal is a 4 or 5 times MP from the Liberal Party. He's never been made a minister. Why is he never been made a minister? Is because he's involved in tax frauds. He has got cases of tax fraud against him. That is one. Number two, I will not name the immigration company, but there is a large India-based immigration company, the owner of which is an Indian or from a person of Indian origin. He's a partner in that company. Now there is a clear quid pro quo between the government, the Liberal government officials and this immigration company, which Sukh Dhaliwal is a partner of. There is millions and millions of dollars at stake. He's the recipient and beneficiary of millions of dollars. So he is getting those illegal gratifications in the shape of the money being paid by Indian citizens coming into Canada and trying to get settled there, one of whom was Ravi Sharma, alias Hardeep Nijjar, alias LGBTQ, alias Pradhan of a Gurdwara. I don't know what all you can call him. Another thing is that this Sukh Dhaliwal stood for Mayor Surrey. He stood 5th. He came 5th. That is his popularity. And when he found that he's getting down the ground and he's going to be finished, that is when he started, getting very close and cozy with the Khalistanis. He has always been into illegal trade, but he got very close to the Khalistanis. And after, I'm telling you very frankly, and this is verifiable, after the death of Hardeep Nijjar, he is now planting his own people since it is his constituency, Surrey. He is trying to get people of his own interest as the people who would administer Guru Nanak Sikh Temple Surrey, the Gurdwara he did not name or he mentioned clearly. So these are his credentials. He is known as Pog Mantri in Canada. This is how it is called. He is very closely associated with the Pakistan ISI. He regularly attends Pakistan High Commission meetings and parties in Canada. He is a regular visitor to Pakistan at least 2 or 3 times in a year. These are the credentials of Sukh Dhaliwal. And he says he doesn't trust the Indian government. Sukh Dhaliwal, people don't trust you. They don't want you to be their mayor. You stood 5th when they came out to elect and vote for the mayor. They voted you at the 5th position. That is your credibility amongst your own people.
So you're
I mean, before he could make claims,
Jay, please come.
Anand, before he could make claims on India or Indian government or the ridiculous and absurd comments of the Prime Minister of Canada is trying to support or justify, he's got no 2 feet to stand on when it comes to evidences. India has given 11 demarches. India has given dossiers after dossiers of evidences. India has been telling the Canadian authorities that designated terrorists of India, Inam Yafta Mujrim of India, murderers, gangsters, heinous criminals, are your honorable citizens. How is it that, how is that even possible? And when he says that, well, people have a right to peacefully protest and peacefully demand, where was the peace? These people are murderers, designated terrorists. They are accused in bomb blast cases.
So that's the.
You think that is peaceful?
You know, that's exactly the question that we kept asking him again and again. And he said he's not against assaulting or the sovereignty of a nation, but then he qualified it by saying if the protests are peaceful. So he never clearly answered that question, and neither did he answer this question that whether or not he supports or opposes this entire Khalistani gang.
Anand,
Ramnik ji, if I may just go across to Puneet Sani and then come back to you, Ramnik ji. Yes,
okay.
yes, Puneet Sani.
So, okay, Anand, let's just go by the facts. So, Ramni bhai told a lot, but who is Sukh Dhaliwal? So, at that time, one of the biggest gangsters, his name was Ranjit Singh Cheema. And he was caught importing 200 kilos of heroin from Pakistan. And, he was fighting extradition, he didn't want to go to... And one of the people writing his letter was this Sukh Dhaliwal. So, he is involved in gun running and drug running. And, he wrote, and that, he is such a liar and a snake that he's like, oh, he's a person. That person didn't even live in this constituency. And that, the brave journalist who broke this thing, her name is Kim Bolan. She used to write on Khalistan. So there were two journalists, Terry Moleski and Kim Bolan. But she was harassed so much and, she has basically given up on Khalistan. So they are thugs and they threatened. And, Anandji, to go back a point, now we are talking about, Nijjar was on this. Actually, again, half of the slap should be on our face. So why is Sukh Dhaliwal? Who removed Sukh Dhaliwal from the blacklist? It was this government. Sukh Dhaliwal used to be on a blacklist himself because he was involved in drug running. He was with Khalistanis. He was in all kind of things. And they were like, he's reformed. And as soon as this, what has he said in the Canadian Parliament? This so-called democracy. I don't have any faith. This is the reform. These are snakes. They can never be reformed. And I tell you one thing. The other thing he was saying, somebody has come and killed on Canadian soil, a Canadian resident, and an Indian agent has killed him. And what is the evidence? Evidence is Jagmeet Singh and all this thing. Nothing. Just we have to believe them. But I actually display, and you also I think retweeted it. The Gurdwara from which Mrs. Gandhi's float was taken. It is Guru Nanak Mission Center, Toronto. From that, I have taken out a magazine and I have shown it to you. In that magazine, they are saying there is some Surinder Singh Shindar. Who was this? And in that magazine, they say this guy, he was wanted in India by the NIA. He escaped to Canada. Then he went to India and did some killings. And they tell the name of the person they have killed. And then he goes back to Canada. And then he comes to India and then he does some killings. And they tell the name of the person he has killed. And then he goes back to Canada. And the third time he comes to India, he is killed by the police. And this person is a great martyr. And this is not some, credible allegation. This is not some Jagmeet Singh or Ramnik Wan or Puneet Sani saying this. This is a personal testimony of that person, of that Gurdwara. So they are interfering in our relation. They are killing Indian residents, Indian citizens in India. And these people are being celebrated in Gurdwara. So what nonsense is this Sukh Dhaliwal speaking?
Ramnik Man, final minute to you. Ji.
Well, yeah, okay. So Anand, my point is, when it comes to mutual relations between two countries, you need to take into consideration that this man is a MP of a ruling party. Imagine this were a BJP MP in India. How would the backlash come through? Imagine this guy coming out and telling openly that he does not trust the Indian government. Let me take you backwards a little. There was a Kanishka air bombing in which 329 people lost their lives, 280 of which were Canadian citizens. Where is the judicial justice system? Where is the justice delivery system of Canada? Nothing has happened. No one has been punished for that crime. Everyone involved, a plumber per se, using an AK-47 assault rifle, setting up a training camp in Canada, training Indian citizens or people of Indian origin who would come back to India and get involved into assassinations and killings. He would visit Pakistan regularly. I mean, how can you call such people who are designated terrorists of a country as honorable citizens of your country? And then, lo and behold, the Prime Minister of Canada on the floor of the Parliament is lying. He's lying through his teeth.
This is where the issue is. The issue is which Canadian citizen they are actually choosing to stand up for. Ramnik Man and Puneet Sani, I've run out of time. We'll carry forward this conversation come Tuesday. with you, gentlemen. With that, we call it a wrap on this edition of The Right Stand. Zakar ready with brass tacks.